see my flamingo? Do I need to go up a bit because I've moved this down?
So we want have you got the crashing waves?
Yeah. Oh, you're sparkly. You put your makeup on this morning?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And you got it?
Yeah.
Nice. What a wonderful experience. So there's something really special about it.
White knee socks.
Yeah, I used to wear those.
Oh, yeah.
So you didn't need to keep
It's down.
No. Probably, yes.
Look,
yes.
I mean, look.
Yes, arise. It's okay. Is this good?
Look at the wave coming in there. Look at that.
Is this a good angle?
Look. I don't know why.
Hairy ears.
Oh, gosh. I think just as you get older, you seem to...
And you got the waves?
Yes, I've got the waves.
Okay.
Look at the waves. Oh, my word.
What did she do? As soon as she'd nipped more than me?
I was like, look, I've nearly finished.
I've nipped more than you. Welcome, everybody. Oh my goodness, it's episode 135.
135?
Welcome to one and all. And many things have happened since we last saw you. Most notably, we've entered the period of the year which Kay loves the most. And that is the short amount of time when I am a year closer to her age.
Yes.
Yes. For 'twas my birthday.
It was.
I had the most wonderful day. And talk about epic cake. Just take a look at this. And you too could be enjoying this cake because this is, of course, yes, Pudding Club may have finished this season, but this is the coconut cake. Yeah.
I just added another layer, didn't I?
Yes.
I made it triple layered.
Yes. Gorgeous. And I don't know whether... I was worried approaching this birthday because I wasn't feeling quite so excited as I normally am when it comes to birthdays. But then I did get really excited, and the night before I didn't sleep very well because I was so excited because it was my birthday.
He's ridiculous, isn't he?
I know, it's utterly ridiculous, but also rather good when you consider how old I am. Nearly said my age. Not going to. Reach that age now.
Look, whatever your age is, it's much younger than me, so...
It's very true. The thing is, though, it doesn't look it, does it? No.
I feel it.
We meet anybody... Who do they think's older? Me. Great. I was having a shave last night and...
What happened?
I don't know whether I've just reached that age where... I mean, thankfully, I have a lovely head of hair.
I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know why.
Hairy ears.
Oh, gosh. I think just as you get older, you seem to grow more hair, don't you, in bizarre places?
You do. And I was like, I can't believe this.
But you get very strange... You get like hair down here. You always have done since I've known you.
Yeah, I know, but it's worse now.
I don't want to know.
Well, no. I'm not going to go into any detail at all, but I think I'm very good
at keeping it down.
Yeah. I mean, you know, for any of you men out there, you know, we're all in the same club, I'm sure. But, you know, for the first time ever, I just thought, what is that about? Just terrible. And actually, as out on my morning run this morning, I play this little game when I'm out running, and as I'm coming towards one of the many people who I inevitably will pass walking a dog, if it's a guy, I try and decide if I'll be able to smell their aftershave or not. And this morning, the reason why I thought to tell you about it this morning was this morning it literally stopped me in my tracks.
You do get that, don't you?
It was that strong.
Yeah.
And I was some distance. Now, you would think, wouldn't you? Maybe I was this close. No. This is a wide track, and I'm on as far across the opposite side to him. I must have been 5 feet from this guy.
The wind must have been wafting it your way.
I'm not convinced of that.
Oh, right.
Because it wasn't that breezy.
Some men are far too liberal, aren't they?
And it set me thinking, Kate. It set me thinking. Do you know any men who are liberal with the aftershave? And is there a demographic which it fits to? Because I think there is. Because when I was young, I'm telling you, there was more people who bathed in aftershave than today.
I would agree with that.
I think that as the years have gone on, and I don't think I've never been a person like that, have I?
No, you just put on, you never put on very much, and what I
please
like
tell
is
me
that
I don't exude.
I like it when aftershave on a man when you can only smell it. Do you know, if like you were saying hello to someone, or it was a friend, or you love it, and you go and give them a hug or a kiss on the cheek, and then you can smell it.
Yeah.
I think that's when it's really nice, because you just get
please
that.
tell me I fit that demographic.
Yeah, well, you do, because I would tell you, because I don't like.
That's great. By the way, I'm not criticising anyone who bathes in aftershave, because each to their own.
Each to their own, absolutely.
If that's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if, and maybe we can try and pin it down. Is there, because I have a feeling it's guys over 50 who maybe were fairly dapper, handsome chaps when they were younger. I could be wrong.
Do you think?
Well, the guys who I see who look like or smell like they bathed in aftershave, and this guy definitely fit this. Was
it a nice aftershave, or was it like Old Spicy, Bruty?
No, it was better than that.
Oh, right,
but
okay.
I'm thinking, do you know what? I think there might have been some Aramis going on there.
Oh, right.
Which it's borderline.
Yeah.
In its time, it was great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love some of the vintage aftershaves. Like, I bought you some Cool Water.
You did?
Oh, I love it. Davidoff Cool Water. That was the smell of, like, the
1970s.
No! Cheeky devil. It was like the early 90s, wasn't it? Everybody smelled of Davidoff Cool Water, and it's a lovely smell. And I saw some a couple of years ago, probably a couple of years ago now, just in a chemist sort of shop, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get some of that for Dan.
I remember
and it does bring back those memories of.
I remember my first ever aftershave.
Pablo Picasso one, the Minotaur one. No.
Oh, crumbs.
Because you can still get that.
I used to wear that, didn't I?
Yeah, you did used to wear it.
Yeah.
You can still get it.
Shall I tell you when I started wearing that?
When?
When I was in Egypt.
I might have to get you some more, because I nearly bought you some more for your birthday. You have to order it online from specialist perfume shops.
Minotaur's
still get it.
Pretty cool. I've forgotten about that.
And I've forgotten what it smells like, so I might have to.
I'll tell you what my first ever aftershave was. I remember getting it in my Christmas stocking. Santa brought it for me.
Yeah.
It was Tabac.
Tabac?
Yes.
Sounds like a Star Wars.
That's Sabac.
Oh yeah, it's that game they play on Solo. That would make a great aftershave name, wouldn't it?
Tabac came in a plastic bottle.
Oh no!
It was sort of slim. It was like bulbous at the bottom and then slim and quite tall.
Right.
Screw off top.
Gosh.
So you're literally pouring liquid. There was no sort of hole in the top. It was a bottle.
It was just in the hand and splashy on.
Yes.
Right.
So probably when you had that on, you did smell like you bathed with it.
Yeah,
the thing is, though, it wasn't the strongest of aromas, and perhaps this is the reason. But no, I don't think it is, because I do recall I used to have a relative who used to bathe themselves in Pino Silvestre.
Oh, I don't know that one.
That smells of pine trees.
Oh, gosh, really?
Alcoholic pine trees. But what I was going to say there is I do wonder if perhaps aftershaves have become more intense and got stronger.
Well, I think so as well, because I don't buy you. It's not aftershave. It's kind of like a perfume, isn't it?
Eau de toilette.
It's eau de toilette.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if that's different to like the old-fashioned aftershaves. But I remember I was just thinking then of what I used to always use when I was younger. And when I was younger, it was always Yves Saint Laurent Paris.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
I don't.
Gosh, everybody was wearing that, and I probably still like it now. I think everybody's smell preferences are different, I suppose, aren't they?
Takes all sorts. What a show we've got in store. Yes, to celebrate my birthday, my goodness, we have just the biggest show ever, because it's the very last in the current season of New Adventures of the Bakery Bears. And
it's a really good one.
We're going out in some style.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Because it's the end of the biggest season we've ever done, but also because it's my birthday. We had to celebrate. We had to. But not only that, we have the first physical viewing of a brand new pattern from Kay.
Yes.
Yes. Very exciting.
Yeah.
But not only that, I've knit some pockets.
Oh, yes.
With the help of Kay.
We did it together.
We did, because I was nervous about it. And we'll go into great detail about it later on. But my goodness, it was fun.
It was great.
I loved every bit of it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell
We'll
you all about
it
in What's on Your
and
Needles.
We will show you.
Yes, we will. There's been a couple of people who, well, more than a couple of people. I've seen a few people asking how they listen to the radio show, and I just want to say it loud and clear, and I apologise if I didn't make this clear enough before. The radio show is available to everyone for free to listen to every 2 weeks. So if you look for the Baker Bears radio show on either Apple Podcasts or on Podbean or pretty much anywhere where you find your podcast. I mean, to be fair, if you go onto our website and just click the listen button, it'll take you straight to it.
No, it's just wherever you would normally listen to audio podcasts. And if you've never listened to an audio podcast, I mean, you could, to be honest, just Google it and it would come up.
Or drop on our website, click
go
listen,
on the website,
and it'll take you straight to it. Because a brand new Baker Bears radio show came out last Friday.
It did.
Where we were getting to the bottom of was Atlantis real? But yeah, it was just great. It was just such a wonderful episode, and thank you all so much for the people who've been engaging and commenting and enjoying it. Thank you so much. And we will, of course, be back next Friday with a brand new episode, and I'll tell you what that's all about at the end of the show. Folks, it's time for us to find out. Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Yay!
Yay!
The last couple of weeks really have just been kind of all about socks, I think, largely. I've just been really, really enjoying knitting socks, which will come as no surprise to anyone. You all know that I really love knitting socks.
Yeah, we do, but you've been in a funk because you've been trying to knit other things.
Yeah,
so it's
that's true. And I think that's what's kind of been going on. Yeah. And we've both been ill as well this last couple of weeks. We had some nasty sort of bug thing going on, and I think that as well, I just wanted something comforting and just lovely to knit. And I've got 2 socks to show you this time, and I've just been enjoying them both so much I can't even tell. Well, I can tell you because I'm going to tell you, but you know what I mean. So the first one, actually, you've never seen this before, and let me get a blocker because I've finished one. I'm knitting these socks for lovely Sarah. You all know, or I'm sure you all know, Sarah, who's Sherlock Knits on Instagram, and she's a doctor, and she's a doctor in a Marie Curie hospice. And a couple of years ago, she had this crazy idea that she would like to knit socks, a pair of socks for all of her patients within the hospice where she was, which I think is about 30, something like that, 30 patients. This escalated. This year, this is the 3rd year she's done it, and she's now aiming to knit, not by herself, you know, we're all helping her. I think it's 400 and odd pairs of socks, so that every patient, plus a family member of that patient, within all of the Marie Curie hospices in the country, gets a pair of socks on Christmas morning. Wow. And, you know, she's done it the past 2 years and achieved it and overachieved what she wanted to do. And, you know, with the help of all us. And it's just been amazing. The previous 2 years, West Yorkshire Spinners have brought out, like, a particular colourway, a Marie Curie colourway. That didn't happen this year. But I know that some people have got leftovers from previous years and they're knitting those. Or you can just knit socks that are primarily yellow, which is the main colour of the Marie Curie logo. So if you'd not got that yarn, you know, not got access to it or didn't have any left over from previous years, you can just knit sort of yellow themed socks, and that's perfect. So I didn't have any of the yarn left. I have knit a pair before, but I didn't have any of the yarn left. But then Eden Cottage Yarns came out with a sort of like a charity yarn, if you like. They dyed up some yarn and they were donating all of the proceeds to Marie Curie for the yarn as part of this whole sort of campaign that Sarah's doing. So I thought, right, do you know what, I'm going to buy some of that, because then you're contributing that way, aren't you, with a monetary contribution. But then I thought also, you know, you're knitting a pair of socks, or certainly I am. This was the colourway from Eden Cottage, and Victoria's called this one Flower Power 2019, and it's on her Tempo base, which is a 75-25. It's not the same 75-25 that we kind of all know, you know, that's used very commonly by dyers. This is a different base entirely. It's much more rustic. It's perfectly nice to knit with, but I must admit I do prefer the other one. It's a bit slicker. This is more of a rustic one, but if you do like a little bit more of a grabby yarn, it's not particularly rough, but there is a little bit of a prickle. But they're going on your feet, aren't they? So, you know, it's fine. Then I think you'd like this base. But this was the colour. It was sort of lemons and a pale sagey green running through it. And I finished a sock. And when I started knitting these, I realised that I thought it was going to do a kind of swirly, pooly thing. So I thought, oh, I might just stick in a bit of a pattern just to try and break that up a bit. So I popped in this little lace pattern, and I'm absolutely in love with this, and oh, I just love it. So this is the finished sock, and you can see it has done, can you see it's done this swirly pooly thing? You know, it's fine. I added in a yellow heel just to emphasise the yellow sort of theme.
That doesn't seem as pooly as some of the other yarn I've seen recently.
No, I don't know. I mean, some people wouldn't describe this as pooly. It's more, it more swirls, doesn't it, in a kind of stripy way. Pooling for me is where you just get those clumps, those massive...
Yeah, we saw that in Perfect last time on my scrap socks.
Yeah, so it's... But it's still, you can see it's sort of regularly swirly, but I actually think it looks okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's fine. But I added in, look, this little lace pattern. It reminds me of an old school sock.
Right.
Do you know the white knee socks?
Yeah, I used to wear those.
Oh, yeah. That we all used to wear. They always had that little bit of lace going on, didn't they? And that's kind of what it reminds me of. But, oh my goodness, I just loved knitting this pattern so much. I just improvised it. But I loved it, you know, I love it that much that I think I am going to knit another pair in a different yarn and maybe put this out as a pattern, because it was just so, and it still is, I'll show you the other sock, I'm well on with it, but it was very addictive, you know, it's just lovely to knit. It's just a 4-row repeat, which is my perfect, you know, I love a 4-row repeat, and there's just that little bit of something to do on every round, but nothing taxing, and it just produces such a lovely sock, I think.
Yeah.
I made a mistake with these and knit them on 2.5mm without realising.
Whoops.
But do you know what? I think it's fine. And I said to Sarah, I texted her, I said, oh gosh.
How did you do that?
I just picked, I'd put a 2.5mm into the 2.25 case by mistake, and just picked it out and started knitting with it, and I'd got to about here.
I suppose it's not like you'd feel the difference, is it?
No, well, I didn't until I got to sort of hit just here on the leg, and I looked at it and I thought, this looks a bit looser than normal. Am I knitting looser? And then I thought, looked at the needle and realised. I told Sarah, and she says, it's absolutely fine, because at the end of the day, it'll fit someone. There's 450 pairs.
I remember when you realised, and you're like, oh my goodness.
I know.
And I'm like, okay. And
Darren's like, well, it'll fit someone, won't it? I've made it to sort of like a UK size 6.
Oh no. All their feet are smaller than that. I know. You're done for.
And I think I've washed this one because I wanted to see how it blocked, and I think it blocked out really lovely. And I put my umbrella toe in it. So I'm on the second one, and I'm on the gusset decreases of the second one. They're just going so quick. I actually put it down for a few days because I was working on something else I'll show you later. But I picked them back up the other night, and within not very long it seemed like I was through the heel and everything. So I'm on to the second one. This one seems to be knitting up slightly differently. It's not, can you see? It's not swirling like it did on the other one, and at first I thought maybe it's my gauge. I mean, looking at it, I don't normally have that much of a difference in gauge, from one sock to the other. Don't you think they look kind of slightly different? This one's more mingly, it's not as swirly. So I can only presume that maybe my gauge is just that very slightly different, and it's just affecting the way that it shows. I don't think a non-knitter would notice that. I hope not anyway. I'm sure they won't. And it just feels really nice to be doing something like this too, that that somebody on Christmas morning will open them up, and I just think that's really nice. If you've got the time to knit a pair for Sarah, then please do so. I know that she would really, really appreciate it. And if you want any details, then just have a look on her Instagram. But basically, you're just knitting a pair of socks. I think either sort of 64 or 72 stitches are the sort of only requirements, really. And yellow yarn or the Marie Curie yarns. So I'm really, really enjoying those. And I'm sure I will have them finished for next time because I'm on the gusset decreases. I'm definitely going to knit another pair with this pattern. I just need to decide on the yarn. I think it would work with a variety of yarns. Clearly it looks really nice with this more sort of variegated swirly yarn. It would look beautiful in speckles. Self-striping, I think it would work brilliantly well with self-striping. I think it would look great. I can't think of a yarn that it wouldn't really work with, and I like that because it's difficult to find lace patterns, isn't it, where it doesn't get lost. I think because you've got that split with the stocking stitch in between, I think that's why it stands out nicely. I'm really, really enjoying them, and I'll be kind of sad when they're finished, which is why I'm going to start another pair straight away, I think. Yay! Dan Jones?
Yeah.
What's on your needles? Look at those pockets.
I suppose it's like anything. If you've done it, then it doesn't seem so daunting. But until you do, it can seem daunting. And I don't know, if I said to you, you're going to knit some internal pockets on a garment. For those of you who haven't done it before, I would guess, unless you're very different to me, you would be concerned about that. You would think, well, how am I going to do that? How's all that going to work? And, well, it's great. It's not difficult at all. And, to a huge extent, that's most probably down to the pattern. It really did feel very straightforward. It is the Claire Quat pattern. I'm going to show you what we've done in just a moment. It's by Tin Can Knits, and it is constantly sort of surprising me in that I expect it to be boring, and at every sort of little stage something happens which stops it being boring, which is good, because right the way up the sleeves I don't recall ever becoming totally bored. No. And, knitting through the bottom and then getting into the colour work and then, not being bored. But now I'm back at that stage again where I'm convinced I'm going to get bored. Because now you're at that dreaded point where you've done all the little bits and pieces which you need to do all the, the lovely details that are on the garment. And you're at that dreaded point where it says now knit because I'm currently at 7 inches from cast on edge, and you've got to knit to 17, was it, or was it 19?
19, I think.
Great!
So you've got like 12 inches of just plain knitting.
Look
at the pocket.
It's a pocket.
Oh, look.
It's not been sealed up yet.
No.
So if you tried to put a tissue in there, it would fall out.
It would, but it's there.
Now, I did let Kay help me with the pockets.
Isn't it lovely?
And I feel okay about Kay helping with the pockets because it was fabric that's internal to the garment. It wasn't extending the length of it, wasn't doing some of the colour work. So I was very, very happy. And do you know what? It was fun. It was fun.
It's the first time. You just knit 2 squares, basically.
I'm meaning doing a project
we did it together.
With another knitter.
It's funny, we were sat and we were both... we were both knitting a pocket.
And look, what did I say straight away?
And he said, you will have done yours in 2 minutes.
No, I didn't even say that.
Not.
I said, just remember, this is not a competition.
And I said, I'm just going to knit.
When would it ever be a competition, she said?
No, that's what I said, because
so
it's
then,
not a competition.
What did she do? Assume she'd knit more than me?
I was like, look, I've nearly finished.
I've knit more than you.
You had to knit to sort of 5 inches, and I'd finished mine, and I think you'd done 1 inch.
So there it
is, look.
Yeah.
So it's just a flap that you then... It's inside, and then you just sew down the edges.
And I don't think... who's to say what the future holds, but I wouldn't have been keen on knitting this pattern if the pocket had been external.
Yeah, because you can do like a patch pocket, can't you?
Because I just like the
so
neatness.
Much neater because there's nothing showing on the front. Because this is your front fabric. The pocket is behind, and I do really like that.
I really like that too. And for all of you people out there who have maybe knit a garment but never knit one with a pocket, or never even knit a garment, and you're thinking, well, how would you even start? I can tell you this. the pocket bit is not difficult.
No, it's dead easy. It's brilliant.
And it's sort of, you just think, great. Because you think, well, do you know what? That now potentially opens up a whole avenue of other things that I might end up then going on to knit. And, you use your pockets.
It actually gives you the knowledge then to put pockets into things that don't have them as well.
Yeah.
When you see how easy it is to do it with this method, because it is super easy.
I was thinking too, I was sort of thinking, how would you attach... I mean, I'm so stupid.
Well, no, if you've never done it before, it is.
I was thinking, okay, so I'm going to bind off those, and then how does the pocket get on the back? How do you well, you just leave it on the needle and knit it on.
And knit it on.
Of course you do.
It was so easy.
And, well, look.
I know, it just looks continuous from the back.
Look, it's magic.
And then we'll just seam it down at the back. And, because you're seaming as well on the inside of the garment, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit messy. If your seaming's not brilliant, then no one's going to know, because they're just going to see this beautiful...
I mean, look at it. Look at it.
And I do love a pocket. It kind of it raises the garment, doesn't it, to a different level.
That's why...
I don't know why, because I don't put phones or anything like that in pockets.
You put tissues in there.
It's nice to have a tissue, isn't it?
Yes.
Useful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And other little bits and pieces.
Well, it's just nice to have a pocket. I put my hands in pockets.
If it's chilly.
Yeah.
Yes. I think when you consider that I will always be wanting to knit garments for Kay, now knowing how to put a pocket in really does make a huge amount of sense.
Because it doesn't matter if you find a pattern that you love and it doesn't have pockets, you can just pop them in,
baby.
Pop them in.
Because I think, when you... Like you said a moment ago, when you do it this way, you're not going to wreck a lot of patterns.
No, you've got to make sure that you've got the...
space.
The real estate to actually put it in, haven't you?
Certainly, the majority of the jumpers we've seen, there's way too much real estate down the bottom.
Yeah, because these days everything's all about the yoke, isn't it, really? So you will have that space at the bottom usually to put them in. And sometimes just, if you were knitting like a tunic, for example, just one little pocket is quite nice, I think.
Yeah.
On the side. Yeah.
I must just say, actually, that we're featuring in the first Knitability of 2020 the most amazing designer from Russia.
Oh gosh!
And I'll link her in I'll put a name below here now, and I'll also link it in the show notes. And what blew me away about this designer was that she's taken... Now, don't discard her because I say the next words, because this is just one tiny element of the things which she does. But she's taken Star Wars and she's made the most stunning colourwork yoked jumpers that I have ever seen, and you wouldn't know it was Star Wars.
No, you wouldn't. And from a distance it just looks like a beautiful colourwork jumper.
Breathtaking.
But then you get up close and you're like, oh
my goodness. And
it's very clever.
That, for me, I can't stand stuff. I don't like stuff that screams out what it is. I like things that are a bit more subtle and beautiful. If you can take something like Star Wars and not just stick on an X-wing and write the word Star Wars, if you can actually do something exciting and original, which is exactly what she's done, I'm impressed. But that was just one element, because she did a design called Ocean.
That's beautiful.
That is just... There's more colours going on that yoke than I've ever seen.
There's a lot of colours.
And right now, if you were going to say, talk about knitting horizons, my horizon for 2025 is to have the colourwork capabilities to knit something as outstanding as that. But if you want to see her designs, just follow the link in the show notes below. But right now, I'm thoroughly enjoying... Again, now I've gone through that dip, that sort of low point, and I now feel like and the low point merely was I just didn't feel like I was making enough progress. But do you know what? Progress doesn't matter, does it? What matters is, are you enjoying what you're doing?
Yeah.
And I do think that for me personally, I have to be happy with what's appearing underneath. Because
I think it's brilliant.
Well,
it looks great, doesn't it? It's very much my colour.
It's exactly as good as I could have hoped it to be at this point. And I'm so looking forward, after all that work, coming up with that technique to do the lovely 1x1 colour work on the top. I'm so looking forward to getting to it. I just want to get there now. So here are the two colours, and there's a white one as well.
There's a white,
which
creamy,
is here, which is really nice, and this is Drops Charisma.
Drops Charisma. We're not sure of the colours, but you can see.
Well, it's blue, grey and white.
That's as much as you're going to get from Dan. It's not really grey.
It's
because
like a heavy.
Look, if you look at my top, my top's grey. It's not really grey. It's a very browny grey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think you're doing brilliantly well. And those pockets were fun, and we did them together, and that was really great.
Yes. What else is on your needles?
Oh, well, in my lovely bag from Sasha. Oh, I love it. I've got my Stitching Time blanket. I picked this back up recently because, again, as I was saying, I just wanted to knit it, and previously I would have been more kind of forcing myself to maybe work on something that I thought I should be working on, rather than actually thinking, what do I want to knit? Which is not what we should do, is it? The priority with your knitting is, what do I actually want to knit? And I do think you can sometimes get overwhelmed, can't you, with the number of projects you've got on the go, and you kind of lose that a little bit, because you might be thinking, gosh, I've not picked that thing up in a long time, and I need to finish that one for so-and-so's birthday, or I need to finish that one for Christmas. I certainly kind of lose the ability to think a little bit more clearly on what I actually want to knit. So I've been trying to do more of that lately. Hence, I've done quite a lot of work on my Stitching Time. Now, I haven't added any more squares to the actual blanket portion, but I've knit quite a lot, which I'll show you in a sec. But this is where I'm up to with regards to the sort of completed section. I've got 3 rows of sort of 4 blocks, and these ones, as you can see, I'm just putting in 4 coloured blocks and then bordering it. My actual Stitching Time blanket has got 9 coloured blocks within 9 coloured squares within each block. But all I did for this was, instead of doing 9, I just did 4, and you just pick up less stitches. Other than that, the pattern's exactly the same, and the borders are slightly thinner because you don't need as big of a border because your coloured sections are not as big. And I'm kind of theming each little block a different sort of colour, so purples and peaches and greens and pinks. And I think this, actually, I decided I was going to use it as a runner for the bottom of our bed, so I'm just going to keep going until it's long enough to be a runner. So that's the kind of section that's completed, and I've knit, how many have I done? 5. I've knit 5 more sort of the coloured block sections, and I'm just bordering this first one here, so you can see I've got it on the needles to border. This is a lovely pink one, because we've got to have some pink. I'll try and sort of identify the yarns. I know this is Cascade Heritage, this is Strawberry Cream. This one I dyed, it's one of the Harry Potter colours. I can't remember which one. I think we might have given that one away already. This one was from Woolly Mama Yarns, I believe. And that one, I can't remember. No idea. Looks like Kelly's yarn, but I could be wrong. So lovely pinks in this one, and I'm just working on the borders. I always work these with little straight needles. For the actual mitered squares, I use 8-inch DPNs that I've just put like a stopper on the end. But then for the borders, I use these. How long is that, would you say that is? 10 inches maybe? Or maybe it's 12. It's this long of a needle. You can see from here to here. And it's just perfect for working the little borders. They're not my favourite brand of needles. They are the Knit Pro Carbons, aren't they? I don't really like them, if I'm honest, and I never really use these, but they're the right size. I'm using 2.75mm. I didn't have another one this length in this size, so I'm just going with it. I don't like the join here because it's a separate piece of metal here attached to this sort of carbon shaft, and you can feel this here. I don't know if you can see my nail sort of clicking over it. Not keen on that, and I don't like the points because they're just not very pointy for me. They're quite dull, and they're flat on the top. Can you see?
Yes.
I don't know if you'll see.
Some needles are like that though.
If I hold them against
Aren't they?
Dan's top.
I've used needles before with flat tops. It was some metal ones, those German metal ones, Addies.
It's usually Knit Pros.
I remember trying to knit a hat once with some metal circulars with the flattest tops ever.
Oh, it might have been. They might have been Knit Pro. They might have been Addies. I did buy you some Addies. I'm not sure though. But I've had some Knit Pros before where the tops like that have been flat. So I'm just not, as a needle, I'm not terribly keen on them. But for the purpose of this, it's perfectly fine. Of picking up the stitches and just plain knitting and binding off, that's all you're doing. And I'm just maintaining the consistency of, the same needle on all of the pieces. So we've got that one being bordered. And what I always do is I'll look at the placement within the blanket, and then I put a clippy marker on the side that needs to be wider, because that's an edge side. So that's how I stop myself from knitting the wrong borders. And I'm using Cascade Heritage to border them in just white, in the white colour. So that's the pink one, and then I've knit a load of other ones. So I did a green one.
You haven't.
I did.
They're lovely.
These have still got all of the ends because I don't sew my ends in on these until I've bordered them, because I find, because this is right on the edge here, you're going to have a border above it, and then I find it easier to weave that end in when you've got that border above it. So I always do that after. So this is a green one. This is the Eden Cottage that I'm using now for the socks that I just showed you. So I wanted to put one of those in. I thought that was really nice. This is another Woolly Mamas, part of the mini set. Another Cascade Heritage in, I think, oh no, it's not Cascade Heritage. It's not, sorry, I dyed that one. That was one of the rainbow minis that I dyed. Oh, that one is from a design that I've got upcoming. So I'll just show a quick flash of that one, because it's not out yet, that design. So we've got a green block, although on screen this one looks, look at that colour on screen.
Oh, it's lovely.
It looks more blue, doesn't it? We've then have got a blue one.
Which looks green.
Which one looks green?
That one.
This one?
Yeah.
It has got some green in it.
Okay.
But I don't have very strict rules. If it's got some blue in it, if I'm doing a blue block, if it's got a bit of blue, then, I'm
a blue
happy.
block.
Yeah, I'm happy. This one, my friend Sasha dyed me up a little mini and sent it, so that's Sasha's yarn.
Is that the block which you asked me which
I did,
my favourite was?
and Sasha, he said that was his favourite.
I did?
He did. I didn't prompt him at all. This is one of mine. It's one of the Harry Potter ones. I'm not bothered.
I blew it.
So this is a Harry Potter one that's upcoming. It's Pensieve, I believe, that one. And then the other two... Oh, no, that one I think is a Sarah's Texture Crafts. That one, no clue.
Ooh.
But so we've got a blue block, an orange square. I love this one. Look at this one. Ooh, it's lovely. That one is my Clementine colourway. That one I think is Kelly's. Can't remember the other two. But isn't it lovely? I love the oranges. I'm not normally an orange person, but I think as long as it's got a lean towards peach, then I like it. I'm not keen on the kind of red oranges, but I like peachy oranges. And then the last one, I did a brown one, which I kind of thought, do I really want to do brown? It was a bit kind of like, but actually I really like it. And you can see this has got a clippy on just to show me where to put the bigger border. So I've got browns on this one. And again, this one is a Harry Potter one. It's the Grimmauld Place. Which is not technically brown. It's more of a...
It's like green.
Greeny, goldeny, but there is some browns in it. So I thought it went with all the others.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember what the other ones were, sadly. So I've got 5 blocks there, and I've chosen the 4 that are going like on the next row. So I'm working on the borders, and then when I've done the borders on the 4 that I've chosen, I'll sew those onto the blanket and then move on to the next one. So the reason I really like working on this is that it never feels like I've left it unfinished, because, these are finished little blocks. I've finished them. They're all finished. I'm putting the borders on, and when the borders are on, it's all finished again. So I won't feel the pressure to get to the next bit, because it always feels like you've finished something. And I really like that. Whereas with the other sort of bigger mitered square blankets, I just never felt like I was going to finish it, and that's why they turned into cushions, didn't they, in the end? Because I do like to finish things, and with this, I'm finishing things all the time, and that's why I really like it.
Yeah.
So I've just really enjoyed working on this over the past couple of weeks.
Good.
And I'll just carry on working on it until I think, oh yeah, I want to have a little break on that and finish on something else. So.
Look.
Oh, the little bunny.
You know, who is it?
Oh yeah, very good. It's the Peter sock on a bunny blocker. Oh, Jules, look, Jules sent me these lovely blockers.
Look at that. Oh, yes.
Aww.
Now, what a forgiving pattern this is.
Because you've messed up quite a few times.
That's what you want.
It looks really good from a distance.
That's what you want from a pattern, isn't it?
To look good from a distance.
Shut up. You want a pattern where if you mess up on the repeat, that you can just bung in the pattern stitch, the pattern row, wherever you get to, whether it be early or late, and it look like one straight, conducive, lovely fabric, which it does look like, even from that distance. And I love this yarn. The yarn it makes me think of the West Indies.
It does, yeah, it's great.
You know, Jamaica, and it just feels happy, and it's been fun, really fun to knit with. You know, I've had some up and down experience. This is opal, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. I've had some up and down experience with opal. I've had some which haven't been particularly great to knit with, have been stringy and a bit splitty, and some which have been like really nice, good, proper opals. And, you know, it's when you knit with ones like this that you realise why you love this type of yarn so much.
I love how the toe worked. That's fun, isn't it?
I've not really noticed that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But it's, as Kate said at the start there, and you know, as I was trying to show you all without saying the words, it's the Peter socks, and by law they have to be displayed on bunny blockers.
On bunny blockers.
Yes. And just, you know...
You started the second one?
Yes, I Mobiused it.
Good man. Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, I did.
Have you started again?
No. I thought I'd show everybody.
You've Mobiused it?
Yeah.
Oh, you silly Nana.
Yeah, I know.
Let's have a look.
I mean, thankfully now, all hail to the Dan and Lara project 2 years ago. What that did was it took me to a point, because I did knit a lot of socks that year, where now casting on 64 stitches and getting them on the needles is not difficult. But I just have this problem. I've done this a few times this year, not just on socks, on other things too. And it's not that I'm not concentrating about it. I am.
It's very easily done, isn't it? I know that what some people do...
But I'm concentrating on it and I'm doing it. I'm thinking, right, I mustn't twist this. And I twist it.
I know. I think what some people do is they'll cast on magic loop, work a couple of rows and then transfer it onto a DPN.
Right. You see...
There's less chance, isn't there?
I would always have thought that there was more chance of Mobius in it on the bits which are...
No, I think it's where you're going to join it back to start, isn't it?
Because I always thought, that could get twisted around.
Right.
But that's never happened to me, so you're right.
Yeah, I think it's where you're going to join.
So perhaps my concentration is in the wrong area.
I always used to do when I was joining, on double points is, you cast on all your stitches and then I'd lay it flat on the desk.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to do it either on your knee or... up in the air sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you lay it down flat on a flat surface, you can then make sure they're all going in the same direction. Pop your needle in and then pick it up.
So
that's what I always used to do.
I'll be doing that again later.
Luckily, there's only a couple of rounds.
Yeah, well, I knew as soon as I'd knit across the first top. And
it's obviously not going to match. You've ended...
But that's fine.
You've ended there, you're starting on that bit there. I don't want them to match. I prefer not to match.
They're not going to.
Not to have matching socks.
I didn't want to match them this time, so...
Do you know what? I was washing some of your socks the other day. I always put... If it's a commercial yarn, like opal or regia or anything like that, they go in the washing machine at just 30 degrees. I always make sure it's just 30. And they come out perfect. And I must have washed your opal socks that I've made you now dozens of times, and they're still absolutely great.
Yeah.
And I think that is something to to just bear in mind as well, because we want to enjoy the knitting of something, don't we? But when it's socks, you want them to wear really well as well. You don't want to spend all that time knitting them and then after 2 washes you get holes. But the opal ones are brilliant for wear value. I don't think I've ever had a hole.
I must just highlight, actually, one of your most popular videos that you've shot over the years. Kay obviously does tutorials and reviews and all sorts, design diary and all sorts, but one of the most popular ones is about a couple of years ago you did a video on, it was like a review on sock yarns,
right?
And it was called How Socks Wear, and I'll link it in the show notes below. And people have loved watching that because what you did was you took a whole range of yarns which you'd knit with years ago,
right?
And you reviewed how they'd worn and washed over about 3 or 4 years, 5 years, I think, in one of the pairs of socks cases. So you got a really in-depth, because that's what is important to know, isn't it? If you're knitting a pair of socks, you know, if you knit it with the wrong yarn, it might be through in 6 months.
Yeah, and you don't want, I think socks they're a small project, aren't they? But they take a lot of time to knit.
Yeah, but I would argue
there's a lot of stitches in socks.
It's a small project, takes a lot of time to knit, but they are most probably, certainly in this house, the most worn of all the knitted garments. Items
Absolutely. Dan wears knitted socks every day. Bryony wears hers every day. I wear slippers a lot in the house, but I do wear my hand knitted socks as well. So they are definitely the most used knitted item.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the last time I saw a hole in a pair of socks. So, I mean, that's really good.
So they are my lovely Peter socks.
And
I'm loving every moment.
Opal.
It's Opal. Symphony of Dreams. I don't even need to check the tag anymore. Neither did Kay, of course,
Symphony of Dreams, and it's 9617 is this colour.
What else is on your lovely needles?
Oh, it's another pair of socks. Yay. This is actually the only, not quite, but the only 2 pairs of socks I've got on the go, apart from something secret.
It's a secret.
It's a secret.
It's a secret.
It's a secret. But this is the other pair that I'm working on, and it's Dan's Scrappy autumn socks that I'm knitting for our autumn equisocks.
The pooly socks.
Knit along. The ones that pulled at the top, yes. So I finished.
Do you know what these look like? Have you seen the DFS adverts?
Which ones?
It's a sofa advert in this country. I'll try and link it in the show notes for those of you who haven't seen it. They are the people who work supposedly at DFS are like fabric people.
They're made of fabric.
And this looks like their actual body.
Oh, right. Because they're all like, they're like patchwork, aren't they?
Yes.
It's a very cute advert, and we actually bought our last sofa from DFS and weren't
And all we'll say is we won't be buying another one from DFS.
No,
and all of you will know who've seen recent episodes the story of the firm cushions, which have saved it. I must say. It's now a pleasure to sit on.
It is, yeah. But the whole experience wasn't brilliant, was it? But anyway, I finished the first of Dan's Scrappy socks. Oh, they're very cool, aren't they? And can you remember I did the experimental thing with this? And after I picked up the gusset stitches, I knit 20 rounds plain before starting the decreases, and I did 2 plain rounds between the decreases rather than 1. So everything's much more staggered, if you like, around this area, and it was just to try and create some more room across the instep, which is tried it on and it fits pretty well, doesn't it?
It's tremendous.
It fits pretty well. So I was dubious about it, but I was pleased that it did fit pretty well, and the stitches around the instep are not as stretched.
I must just quickly say though, Kay, ribbed socks are phenomenal. I've never worn a pair of hand knit socks before that haven't stretched and grown.
Gone a bit baggy.
After one wear.
Yeah.
They go baggy after one wear.
I do with you because
that's why I put them in.
Broad.
Well, and that's what you're trying to resolve now.
Yeah.
Ribbed socks, absolutely don't.
Yeah.
They're brilliant.
Because you've been wearing your Boba Fett socks, haven't you?
Well, I've only been wearing them for the last few days because I only got them on my birthday.
You did, yeah. But you're really enjoying them.
Yes.
So, but I'm going to try something a little bit more different on the next pair, because one of our patrons in our Facebook group that we have she heard me talking about the whole instep issue, and she linked to a video by Roxanne Richardson. If you just search Roxanne Richardson on YouTube, you might already know her, and she'd done one about instep and adjusting for different circumferences around that point from your heel over your instep. And what she actually said, and when she said it, I just suddenly thought, do you know what, I've read this in a book years ago and I don't know why I hadn't thought of this before. But if you have issues where you're tight across the instep, what you should be doing is lengthening your heel flap, so knitting a longer heel flap. And when you think about that, it makes total sense. So what I'm going to do on his next pair, which I really want to finish this pair so I can get onto the next pair because I'm so excited about socks at the moment, is I'm going to knit a longer heel flap. And I did some calculations that are in that video. If you watch it, she tells you how to calculate based on your stitch gauge and the measurement around that area. I'm going to knit a longer heel flap and I know how much longer I need to knit it. Normally I knit 36 rows because as a standard, isn't it, in a sock pattern, it will tell you generally to knit your heel flap the same number of rows that you've got on the stitches for the heel flap. So in a 72 stitch sock you've got 36 stitches, therefore you do 36 rows, and that's what I've always done. But when you think about it, you know, there's no kind of, to me, I don't know where that calculation sort of originated from, but that is the sort of norm, isn't it? And I think for me and for Bryony and other people I've knit socks for, it's been absolutely fine. But I think if you do have a particularly broad foot or a narrow foot or, you know, anything else that you might need to accommodate that's a little bit out of the normal sort of range, then I think this is a really great thing. So I know that next time I'm going to knit, I think I worked out, I'm going to knit 44 rows on the heel flap, which will mean then you're obviously picking up more stitches. I'll be picking up 22 instead of 18 on each side, obviously. So that's going to give me, is it 8 more stitches all round? Is that right? And that will then give you more, you know, you've got more breadth across here. So I'm going to do the next pair of socks I'm going to do for him. I'm going to do a ribbed sock. I'm going to do a longer heel flap. And I think I will start the gusset decreases normally, but I am going to do the 2 rows in between rather than 1, just to stagger it a little bit, because I don't think it will need the plain rounds because I'll have extra stitches there. So in theory, it should all work. So that's what I'm going to be doing on his next pair, but I'm on the second sock and I'm on the gusset decreases of the second sock. Now with this one I chose kind of all browns and reds, autumnally golden sort of colours, and this one I thought I'm going to go with purples and greys and plums because that's still autumnal to me, but it makes it different to the other one. And I really like scrappy socks to be really scrappy, so these will be very different, and I think I like that, it's nice. So I started with this sort of plummy purpley with a bit of blue, gone into this lovely purple with speckles, and then this grey was a little bit I had left over that was my Dark Side and the Light colourway, so it's a Star Wars colourway, so I thought, oh, I'm going to put all of my leftovers in of that, and then I've just moved on to this purple. So I'm on the gusset decreases, and then this one seemed to go very quick, and when I reached the number of rows I normally do, I was like, am I done? It just felt like it was quicker, and I think that's just the scrappy thing, isn't it? It just seems to go quicker, I think. I've just been really, really enjoying them. Normally I feel that Dan's socks are a bit of a slog, but I haven't felt that with this pair. So I think it's partly because I'm just enjoying socks and partly because of the scrappy nature. So I've got some kind of other, that's a blue that I used in one of those squares I just showed you. I just really liked that, and I thought I'll put some of that in. And then I've got another bluey purple, which is sort of similar. And then this one I actually used in this sock. It's what I used on the toe, and I had a bit left and I just really liked it. This was from Biff Sugar Yarns, I believe. I bought a mini set recently and I just thought that was really nice. But it does look a bit browny, I might not. But then I think when I hold it up to this sock, I don't think it looks particularly out of place. So maybe I will use it in that one as well. I'm sure I'll have that done for next time as well. And I'm using 2.25mm, 72 stitches. And I did kind of wonder, I did kind of think, you know, should I actually be casting on more stitches for your socks? Do I cast on enough? But then actually around the ankle, they always fit really well, don't they?
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to stick with 72, but I'm going to make that adjustment that I've just spoke about. And I'm hoping to report back next time because I'm very keen on getting those on the needles. And I think I'll do like a festive pair.
Cool.
Because then we're running into that time, aren't we? So that'll be really nice.
Folks, it's time for the thing I've probably been dreading for the last 2 months. It's the end of the 3rd season of the new adventures of the Bakery Bears. And thanks to some amazing people, and you all know who you are in the Bakery Bear community, this has been the biggest season of the Bakery Bears, of the new adventures of the Bakery Bears, that we've ever produced. And it's just been such a wonderful experience all year. And, you know, really hope you've enjoyed this season as much as we've enjoyed this season. We started with a fantastic story of James Cook, and it seemed only right that we should finish with another little bit of James Cook's story. Welcome to a brand new season of New Adventures. Over the next 8 episodes, we've lined up some of the most exciting stories and destinations that we've ever uncovered. In past seasons, we've focused on the stories of kings, queens, and lords of the manor. But this year, we're going to shift the focus to discover the story of people like you and me. Because for every fort, stately home, and castle, there were hundreds of houses that surrounded them. And over the last 2,000 years, those houses became the towns and villages that make up England. So join us in 2019 as we uncover the most important pieces of history we've ever investigated. This is the story of England, and these are the new adventures of the Bakery Bears. In 640 AD, an Irish monk and missionary called Aidan arrived here on the northeast coast of England. Aidan was the Bishop of Lindisfarne Priory, and he spent a huge portion of his life travelling up and down this coast, bringing Christianity to everyone who would listen. He saw this headland from the sea, and when he landed, all he found were deer and stags drinking from a freshwater stream. Surrounded on 3 sides by the sea, Aidan knew this was the perfect place to build an abbey. He called it in Old English Heapru, which means the place where deer drink. Whilst Aidan's abbey is long gone, this wonderful building stands in its place. And this isn't just any 11th century church, because this building was paid for by the legendary Bruce family. Whilst they would end up as possibly the most famous king of Scotland, they started out as English landowners. That's not the only reason why we're here, because Heapru, or Hartlepool as we know it today, is home to one of the most historic ships in England. This is the HMS Trincomalee, and in a series which started with the story of James Cook and his fantastic voyages. we shall end it with an exploration of the type of ship he used to sail right around the world. So where does our story begin? Well, it's right here. We're on our way into the northeast town of Hartlepool. And to me, Hartlepool represents absolutely everything that I love about history. Because if you take it at face value, it doesn't look like Hartlepool has much to offer. Very typical streets with the usual shops you would expect to find in any town across England. But not all great stories are staring you in the face. In fact, the places that we really love to visit are the ones where you have to really look to find those hidden historical secrets. And as we leave the new town of Hartlepool, which was actually built in 1845, behind us, and we arrive in the original old town, the whole feel of the place changes. You can tell that this is a destination that's crying out to be explored. So it's a good job we've come, isn't it? The story of Hartlepool begins with the arrival of Aidan and the foundation of his abbey in 640 AD. This was an abbey with a difference because it housed both monks and nuns, and it was the first to ever be presided over by a woman. Sadly, nothing remains of that original building, but many people have dug here, most notably Tony Robinson and Time Team in the year 2000. So today, we really are walking in the footsteps of giants. Just like at Ripon, which we explored earlier in this series, within 7 years of the abbey being built, a town started to form around it. There would have been stonemasons and glaziers, but also fishermen, because the unique landscape created a natural harbour perfect for getting in and out to sea. And you can get a really great feel for that natural harbour stood here on the breakwater. You see, in the 7th century, it just wasn't possible to build seawalls and harbours. Docking a ship was a treacherous experience unless you had something like this, a natural, secluded inlet. So you can understand exactly why Aidan chose this spot for his abbey. But like so many towns across England, it was in the year 1066 when things started to get really exciting. A man called Adam de Bruce had arrived with William the Conqueror, and to thank him for his service at the Battle of Hastings, Adam de Bruce was given, among other things, the town of Hartlepool. By that time, the abbey had closed down and moved to Whitby, but the town still remained. Thanks to its close proximity to the sea, it had thrived, and the Bruce family quickly set about securing their power base. One of the first things they did was build a town wall. Over the years, Hartlepool had regularly come under attack from Vikings to the Scots, so to protect their tenants, a town wall was built by the very first Robert the Bruce. And this is it. It's reminiscent actually of the walls at York, and it's not surprising really because they were built at a very similar time. Today, much of this wall still remains around the old town of Hartlepool, and it really is in superb condition. It's fascinating to think these stones are over 700 years old, and what a life they've seen. And whilst this is impressive today, just think how safe and secure the people of Hartlepool must have felt when this was new. But whilst the town now had a wall, it didn't stop people trying to attack. Throughout the Middle Ages, Hartlepool was one of the busiest ports on the east coast, and its importance regularly attracted the attention of pirates. So it really helped to have a town wall that in some places is 8 feet thick. But the Bruces didn't just stop with a wall. Now, Hartlepool Abbey by this time had moved its operations down the coast to Whitby, but the townsfolk still needed a church. So the perfect way to ingratiate with your new tenants was to build them a stunning new church. Church, And oh my goodness, it's absolutely stunning. It's named after the second abbess of Hartlepool Abbey. And when building started here, it took 60 years to complete. And in medieval terms, that was actually quite quick. Now, the church has been added to over the years, and this is one of those sections which has been added as the years have progressed. But the majority of the church that we see back here that we'll go and explore now, it's original, and it was built by Robert the Bruce, and he was the great-great-grandfather of the King of Scotland. Whilst St Hilda's boasts many interesting features, the most prominent are these huge buttresses. And if you're wondering why they were added, well, it was to stop the church falling into the sea, of course. Thankfully, they've done their job rather well, because in the 819 years that this place has been open constantly for services, the sea has never done any damage. Folks, I cannot believe this. So fortunate that we arrived today and these lovely ladies let us in, but this is Robert the Bruce's great-great-granddad's tomb. Now, I had absolutely no idea at all that the Bruce family was so linked to this part of the world. And anyone who has seen Braveheart or The Outlaw King on Netflix, that Chris Pine movie, will know the story of the Robert the Bruce. Now, this place was built by one of his relatives, one of his ancestors, his great-great-granddad, so not quite an ancestor. But you have to wonder, how then did someone who was a landowner here in the northeast of England become the King of Scotland? Well, it's because Robert the Bruce's great-great-great-great-grandfather was best friends with the King of Scotland. He gave him some land. You fast forward 200 years, and Robert the Bruce was as Scottish as haggis. And the rest, as they say, is history. Now, I'm getting tired, so I think it's time we found somewhere for a nice little rest. This is pretty good. I'd say this is, seriously, I mean, it's cold on the behind, but...
Well, it's all right. I've sat on worse things.
Well, I just think what is just so amazing is we've got cormorants just drying their wings.
I think they must be drying their wings.
Just behind us, and... we've got the Hugh Breakwater just over there, and the swell of the sea. It's
huge. Can you hear it? I hope you can hear it.
It's really crazy. And then you've got this natural harbour and all the lovely houses up there, looking at all the different coloured houses.
I really like it here, you know. It's a funny old place, Hartlepool. We've just been talking about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, in all honesty, there are parts of it that aren't very pleasant.
Yeah.
You know, kind of rough.
But the thing is, though, the same could be said about most places.
That's absolutely true. But there's just something, it's got, I don't know, I think
has a feel.
It's got a feel. You know what I'm like with places that have got a feel, and...
Well, that feel, Kate, that feel, I'm telling you, stems from the fact that, you know, Aidan, the missionary and monk, you know, trained on Lindisfarne, he's going to have been a calm, lovely man, come here and set up an abbey, you know, run by 2 successive women who again will have been lovely and calm. This will have been a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, and I think there's something about the sea as well, isn't it? And the sound of the sea, I think, always has that kind of calming effect. And I kind of like the fact that it's not touristy.
Yeah.
You know, because very, very often, anywhere that's seasidey, that's near the sea, it's just like tourist havens.
You're speaking, Kate.
Let's compare it to Scarborough, shall we? Shall we just have that little comparison?
Which we can, of course, do directly.
It's completely like chalk and cheese, and yet, okay, you know, there's really nothing here. I say there's nothing here touristy-wise, but that is not true. That's absolutely not true.
Because we are going to go, and you've already seen from a distance that amazing ship, and we're going to be getting on it later on today.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it's not just
church,
that. Yes.
And there is a beach, you know, it's not huge.
More than one. But there is a big beach. It's round the headland.
Oh, right, okay.
Just round that corner.
There is a little beach here, you know, and it's just not your typical...
The other thing about this place...
Arcades, and that's what I love, the fact that it's not a typical rows of arcades. And, you know, the houses up there, and I suppose they're Victorian, aren't they, looking at them?
It's very reminiscent of the houses which we saw when we visited Saltburn.
They are, yeah.
That was in season 2 of New Adventures. And, you know, you will find... As you said Victorian, didn't you?
I think they're Victorian. They look Victorian.
That is exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're just very grand. But, you know, they've got that... Yeah, then directly behind them, you've got some not so grand.
It's an unbelievable.
It's very jarring, isn't it?
I never thought I would find myself in a situation where I could use this word in the correct sort of environment.
Are you going to say juxtaposition?
I am.
How did I know he was going to say that?
When I hear people use that word, I normally want to punch them.
Yeah, I know, but it's true. In this instance, it's absolutely true.
Now, I take back every time I've thought I want to punch someone who said it, because when you're stood here and you're looking at those houses and you're seeing the contrast between 1960s council and Victorian grandeur, that is a weird juxtaposition.
Yeah, but I mean, some of them are still really beautiful, but some of them have just been sort of left to go to rack and ruin, which is kind of sad. But it makes me want to, I wish I had the money to buy one and to do it up, and because, you know, you're looking out to the sea, and there's a couple of them that have got like big chairs in the window, in the bay windows. Obviously, they just sit there and look at the lovely sea. And
one of them had a dog?
There was a little dog looking out.
With a telescope?
He had a telescope.
Nice bronze. Was it bronze?
Bronze?
No, I'm sorry.
A bronze telescope. It was brass,
Thank you. I get confused. They look similar. What a fascinating place.
It is a fascinating place, and it's just lovely, and I just love that there's no one here. And
we have way too much to explore.
We've not even mentioned knitting, have we?
I know, we're going to. Okay. So that's why I'm going to ask you now.
Oh, right. Okay.
We need to give it a score for knittability.
How many do we score out of?
Oh, look, 8 episodes in. I realise the first 2 you weren't with me, but you've done 6 episodes.
Is it out of 5 or is it out of 10? Right,
it's out of 10. So what are we going to score it out of 10?
There's lots of benches around. There's a beach down there. We're sat happily here and it's totally fine. I would go with an 8, to be honest.
Why not higher? Well, I
don't know, really.
Argue me down.
I think we're English, aren't we? We don't like giving 10 out of 10. Well, let's go with it. All right, 9. You're pushing me to a 9.
But don't go there if you don't want to go there.
No, I'll go with 9.
Because I'm struggling to see what the issues are.
There are no issues.
It is a phenomenal place.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
what a great start to our adventure. But, like I said, did you do any knitting?
I did. Did you not see me knitting? My hands are quite chilly. It's lovely and chilly today. Can you see I've got a hat on? Oh, I'm thrilled.
We have gloves and scarves and hats.
We have. It can't be more than 8 or 9,
no.
I reckon.
It was 3 when we started out.
It's fantastic. I'm loving it.
But we still...
I'm knitting a little hat.
Well, it's time to put it away because we have way too much left to explore.
We've got stuff to do.
We do. Because I want to know how these big guns got here.
And I can't wait to get on board the HMS Trincomalee.
But don't panic, because when you come back in part 2, we'll be doing all that and so much more. So I'll see you then.
What an adventure! Oh my goodness. I love places where you go and you think there's nothing here. And there's plenty of places where that's actually true. And I think that's the reason why when you arrive in Hartlepool, your spidey senses tell you to move on. Well, we're just scratching the surface. You've already seen hints of what's to come. It's a tremendous place. I've never actually, I don't think I can think of another place in the country which is quite like it.
No, probably not. It was really interesting, and I think you've just got to sort of look past what's there now to a certain degree and just think about what would have been there and the history and you know,
There's absolutely an element of
you're
that.
right. You know, you're right on the sea, and the sea was amazing.
Yeah.
I kind of was like losing it a bit with the crashing waves.
Oh yeah,
and...
everyone's seen that already.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, yeah.
You put that in?
Yeah, it's outtakes at the start. Yes.
Okay, but it was spectacular, and it was just such a. It had a really great feeling. You know what I'm like with the feelings.
Oh, well, you know, we've always said this, and I think that's what makes or breaks a place. You can have somewhere that looks as lovely as anything, but if it doesn't feel right, then, you know, it just isn't right. And I think what's so great about Hartlepool, certainly from what we've seen so far, is, you know, whilst there are some odd modern buildings which ruin things, it's interspersed with flashes of just total brilliance, you know, from that town wall, which just goes on forever. You know, we've just seen a fraction of it, and then, you know, St Hilda's Church, you know, a superb 11th century church with buttresses like I've never seen. And I sort of loved the fact that they thought, oh, we're going to have to build big buttresses because the sea might knock the church down. Well, the sea's about 200, 300 foot away.
Well, it's not far away though, but we don't know where it was in history. It might have been.
Well, we know it was outside the town wall.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I love the fact, what makes that church so different, if it didn't have those buttresses, it would look just like any other church you would see anywhere. You stick those buttresses on, and it starts to, you know, be reminiscent of places like Notre Dame.
Yeah, it had a very medieval sort of look to it, didn't it?
Which, of course, it should, because that's exactly when it was built. There is literally still so much to come. My goodness, we've not got to the whole reason why we went. That's coming in part 2 later on in the show. Because now it's time for us to find out, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
Now, the first one is I put out another Miss Potter Sock Club 2 pattern. This is the second pattern. Oh, and it's got a bit of twigs on it from where we took the photos. That's funny, pine needle, I mean. Yeah, this is the second pattern, and this is Nutkin. And this pattern was based, obviously, on lovely Squirrel Nutkin and his adventures on the island where Old Brown lives, you know, the owl. And he goes over there one day, sails over with all his friends, wants to go gathering all of the nuts that will be on the island. And he just gets into all kinds of trouble, and that's where he loses his tail to Old Brown. So I wanted to design a pair of socks based on the kind of antics that Nutkin has on the island, and these are the socks. Now, this is the sideways view, so I will take one off and show you the kind of top of the foot in a second. But they've got this lovely lace pattern running down both sides of the top of the foot, and then we've got twisted stitches here on the front, and then also twisted stitches that run down the back of the leg. So I'll take one off and then I'll just explain it a bit more fully. So that's the front of the sock. Oh, I think it's so pretty. So we've the twisted stitches here. These are the trees, the tall trees that are all over the island. And then you get those trees repeated on the back of the leg there. And then the lace panels that run down either side of the trees are like towers of stylised acorns that Squirrel Nutkin's been collecting. So that was my inspiration, and they look lovely on the foot. You know, when it's on your foot, it looks really, really pretty. Now, the yarns that I used, I loved this yarn, and I bought a few more skeins after I used it because I just loved it so much. It's from Eden Cottage Yarns, and it's the base that I particularly loved. It's on a base called Brimham 4-ply, and it's an 85-15. So it's 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, and you get 400 metres. The two colours I used, the sort of golden colour is Summer Harvest, and the green is Coppice. And the green was a mini skein, 20 gram mini skein, and then the Summer Harvest was a full skein. And I think the colours, you know, it's just a lovely tonal yarn. It's just so pretty, and I loved knitting it, which is a good job because actually I knit 3 socks for this design. And the other sock is a fully completed sock, But when I'd finished it, what I did originally was I didn't put any detail down the back of the leg, it was just on the front. And the rib I'd done was just a standard 2x2. But I realised once I'd completed the sock and sort of looked at it, I just wasn't happy. It didn't flow into the lace pattern as I wanted it to. And I just really wanted a bit of extra detail on the back of the leg. So I redesigned it and I just started again from scratch, which, you know, sometimes you just have to do that. And I didn't mind, to be honest, because I just love knitting with the yarn so much. It's just so soft and lovely and it's blocked beautifully. But if you look at the rib now, just here, can you see how it flows into the lace? And then also, it's quite a complex rib sort of to look at, if you like, but not to knit so much. But the back of the leg, you can see it flows into the trees at the back of the leg as well. But what I had to do is, because of each stitch, each size, I had to design a separate rib for each of the 3 sizes. And obviously there's separate charts for the front of the leg, as for the front of the foot as well, because this looks slightly different on each size as well. I've laid it out in such a way that you just choose the page of charts which is your size. So there's 3 pages of charts and there's 3 sizes. So you just look at your page of charts and that's all the information you need. If you want to follow the charts, it's obviously written as well. So I really enjoyed knitting these. I really enjoyed designing them. And I hope you all enjoy knitting them. I've seen some people have started knitting them already. I would recommend a tonal yarn, really. A speckled yarn I think would be fine, as long as it's not really heavily speckled. A gently speckled I think would be fine. But I wouldn't go with like a variegated, because I think you would lose the design, which would be a shame. So that's the second design, and the third one will be out the very beginning of November. And then all 3 patterns I'll be releasing individually a few days after that. So I think it's like the 4th or 5th of November. All 3 patterns will be released individually.
And the best place, as always, to keep track of all Kay's patterns is on Baker Bear's website on the patterns tab at the top of the page. I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah.
What else is off your needles?
Oh my goodness, this is mammoth. I finished my Burrow Blanket. I finished it.
Well.
I can't quite believe it. I only actually finished the fringe yesterday, didn't I? But it's all done and it's huge. It feels huge. Look at all the fringe. It's lovely. I weighed it before I added the fringe and it weighed just short of 1,100 grams. So there's about 11 balls of sock yarn in it, if you think of it that way. But you're holding it triple, so it's not like you're knitting all of those 11 balls, if you know what I mean, all the way through. So what I'll do is I'll hold it up and I'll stand back a bit just so that you can see.
Well, I can hold it up on one side and you can hold it up the other.
Oh, well, that's true, yeah.
Because I'm not sure where you're going to stand.
No, I'm not sure either. So that's probably a good idea. So this is sideways on, obviously, because we've got these lovely borders top on each of the sides. And then we've got this fantastic fringing. If I hold it actually like that, you can see the fringing a bit better. Oh, that fringe really makes it, I think. Definitely, it just looks makes it kind of look a bit more.
Kind of look a bit.
It did sound Yorkshire, didn't it? I do sometimes go a bit Yorkshire. I am from Yorkshire, so you know.
And sometimes, if you ask really nicely, she does impressions of Sarah Gilbertson.
From Postman Pat. I do a very good Sarah Gilbertson.
She does, yeah.
Who permanently sounds like she's got a cold.
Yes.
We love Sarah Gilbertson.
We love all Postman
Pat. Love all Postman Pat characters. They're brilliant. Oh, and it's just, I think it's, well, you know, I'm biased, obviously, but I think it's gorgeous. And I do think the fringe adds that Molly Weasley element.
Yeah, it's the first blanket you're in it that I want to go under.
Oh, right, well, you can.
Yeah, I know.
It's plenty big enough for 2 to go under. This is sideways, obviously, but it did come out. I wanted it more square, to be honest, because I've got a lot of blankets that are rectangular. So with this one, I thought I'm going to go for a blanket that's a bit more square, because I've not done that before. But obviously in the pattern, you can just carry on knitting. It's a movable feast. You know, you can just knit it to whatever length you want your blanket to be, and that's fine. But for this one, I wanted to make it more square. and I just love how it's come out. It's a great size. But I'm going to get to pattern writing now and, you know, photographing and everything. But what I'm going to do within the pattern is I'm going to put in stitch counts if you want to do a baby blanket or if you want to do this sort of bigger size Afghan, because I think that's a useful thing to have. And I just thought it would make a beautiful baby blanket. You wouldn't necessarily, you might want to put the fringe on with the baby, but you might not, and that's fine. You know, you don't have to put the fringe on. It's not a necessity. And I also thought, you like it?
Yeah, it's squishy.
It's very squishy.
It's very tactile.
And what I'm going to do with regards to testing is I will ask for testers that want to knit the baby blanket size, because it doesn't matter what size you knit, the instructions are the same, you're just casting on a different number of stitches. But with regards to the knitting of it, the instructions will be the same. So I thought if I can get testers that would like to knit a baby size blanket, then that's also going to cut down on the time it takes to get it through testing as well. So I will get it written up, I will get it into testing, and I'll just keep you posted on when that will be out. But
wonderful.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's lovely, and I'm so pleased it's finished. I didn't think I'd get it finished for this time, but yeah, I was thrilled, and it was a joy to knit. I loved it.
Cool.
Absolutely loved it. So
it's time, with sadness in my heart, to introduce the very last part of the 2019 season of New Adventures. Yes, it's time to go back to Hartlepool, and it's time to finally walk in the footsteps of James Cook as we set foot on the HMS Trincomalee. Welcome back to New Adventures. Now, by the time Robert the Bruce took the throne of Scotland in 1306, his family had been the lords of Hartlepool for the last 300 years, and in that time it had grown into one of the most important harbours on all of the northeast coast of England. Over the next 400 years, the importance of Hartlepool and its harbour continued to grow, with this bay increasingly filled with ships of all shapes and sizes. And it's into this world that a character we've already met would now have sprung. That man was, of course, James Cook, and whilst he would go on to become the world-famous explorer, in 1746 he was a 17-year-old apprentice seaman, and he would have known the port of Hartlepool well. Now I bet you're wondering, is there anything left of the town that James Cook could well have known? Well, this was, of course, a time of pirates and adventure, and the one thing any budding seaman needed was a boat to sail on. Welcome, everyone, to the HMS Trincomalee. She was ordered and built at a time when the oak forests of England were straining under the demands of the naval war against Napoleon Bonaparte, so Trincomalee was constructed using teak by Indian shipwrights in Mumbai. She was named Trincomalee after the port in Sri Lanka, and she was destined for a life patrolling the West Indies and the Americas. This very much was the type of Admiralty ship Jack Sparrow went up against in the movie Pirates of the Caribbean. As we make our way down the gun deck towards the rear of the ship, we find the captain's quarters. As the HMS Trincomalee set sail at the dawn of the 19th century, the first man to walk through these doors and use these quarters as captain was this man, and his name was Richard Laird Warren. He was supported by 240 officers and men in what is a surprisingly small space. Trincomalee's home base was Bermuda, with Captain Warren and his men patrolling the West Indies, Haiti and Cuba. We're now making our way down the smallest set of stairs I've literally ever walked down in my life. That gap is literally as small as it looks, and I don't know how I got through it. And it's at this point it's probably worth considering what life was like on board this ship. It would have seemed incredibly harsh to us today, and living and working at sea was indeed really dangerous. Even outside of battle, disease, accidents and shipwrecks killed many crew members every year. But the Royal Navy were obsessed with cleanliness, and they gave their men a generous amount of food, and that meant that seamen were often considerably healthier than their contemporaries on land. Now, the men who worked on this ship, and you can see two of them there having some food, they worked in watches overseen by the officers so that the ship was manned 24 hours a day. As well as the tasks required to sail the ship, everyday work included a considerable amount of cleaning and maintenance. Sustenance for the crew consisted of preserved meat, normally salted, hard biscuits known as tack, dried fruit, peas, oatmeal, cheese, butter and citrus fruit. Rations of beer and rum were given every day, often causing problems if men gambled away their rations and large amounts were drunk all at once. However, once the grog ration was reduced in 1850, this became much less of an issue. Now we're making our way up from the bottom deck, and that one is below the waterline, but we're then going to arrive at the captain's table. These are the moments of intimate human interaction with officers sharing a meal that you can just get a glimpse of what life must have been like for James Cook and his crew as they voyaged to parts of the world no one had ever seen before. As we leave the officers' mess behind us, let's get up onto the deck of this amazing ship. HMS Trincomalee was built a frigate. She was designed to be light, fast and agile, so life up here was always exciting. The ship operated as a predator, stretching out from the grand ships of the fleet to seek and destroy pirates, slave ships, or any other hostile vessel of similar size. HMS Trincomalee stayed in service until 1986, and now she has the distinction of being the oldest British warship still afloat. Whilst James Cook never served on this ship, this is exactly the type of vessel he used to circumnavigate the globe, and it's the closest we could get to walking in the great man's footsteps. What an absolutely wonderful experience, and there's something really special about the fact that the Trincomalee is still afloat. And just stepping on board there, it really gave you an idea on what life must have been like on those boats, which would have been coming and going here at Hartlepool right the way through, well really from the moment the town was set up, but certainly in medieval times and into James Cook's time, this would have been absolutely full of ships like that. But we're at the seaside, and yes, we may have had them 3 times already this series, but there's only one thing we could possibly eat for lunch. It's time for some fish and chips.
You had us outside for notability. Do you have to give a lady of a certain age and a gentleman who's also pushing 44?
You are. In fact, you'll be 44 by the time you watch this.
Need a comfy seat and somewhere nice to sit and eat our fish and chips that I've got to say were rubbish.
Rubbish.
The worst ones we've had. And we can now crown the winner is Barnard Castle,
Okay.
second is Richmond,
Okay.
and joint third, and it's a distant third.
They're well below. Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than greasy fish and
Today's
chips.
were just really greasy. We couldn't eat them.
No.
We didn't eat very much of them. They were just Not good.
Thinking though about, you see, there were other options here. We could have gone to different fish and chip shops.
Well, we could have, or actually, I wish we'd gone to the M&S food hall.
There's an M&S food hall, literally 5 minutes away.
That's what we should have done.
But there's a McDonald's, there's restaurants on that centre. There's pubs, I'm sure, that serve food. But there is a distinct lack of quality public toilets. So that brings down, I think,
It does,
the picnicability score.
Yeah, absolutely, because, you need that with a picnic, don't you?
What do you think for picnicability? I'll tell you what I think.
I'm going 6-ish, 7
Yeah,
at the most.
I'm going 6 on the nose.
Right.
So we currently have a score of 15.
Right.
Interestability.
Well, I think it's been great for interestability.
I mean, if you think about it, you just wouldn't believe, and this is why I said at the start of today's show that this is a town which fools you, because you arrive and you think, I need to accelerate and get past this.
It's kind of true. Apologies if anybody lives in Hartlepool that's watching.
Well, I've known a lot of people over the years who lived in Hartlepool, and I've not met many of them who are proud of the main town.
No.
But I've met loads of them who are proud of this headland.
Yeah.
And we found out today the reasons why. Because,
Yeah, I love it around here. I think
St
it's
Hilda's
lovely.
Church.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And, amazing that it wasn't supposed to be open today. Didn't plan on it being open today. And then 3 lovely ladies in there doing some flowers, let us in, offered us tea.
They did.
Do you know?
And we left a donation because...
Yes, a healthy donation.
We did, because, there should
Private
be more...
viewing of the Bruce Chapel.
Absolutely, they were so lovely and welcoming. And there should be more people in the world like those 3
There
ladies.
absolutely should. There probably
They were
is more
fabulous.
people like that than you realise.
There probably
They just
is.
hide under rocks.
Yeah.
For example, here. We've had to dig deep to find someone like that. We've never encountered anyone quite like that on New Adventures before. So,
They were lovely.
I mean, interestability, what are you thinking score-wise?
Interestability.
Yes.
I'd go an 8.
I think a 10, so we'll settle the difference at a 9.
Let's go 9.
Yes.
Okay.
So now my rudimentary maths is challenged, and I'm slightly embarrassed by this because...
What was it, 15 before? So
it was 15.
24.
Yes, that's right, 24.
Even I can do that.
So one of us is covered up by the leaderboard. It should be me.
Cover me up.
It's just shot across and covered K. I'm creating a lot of post-editing work for myself here. Hartlepool is slotted in. It's sort of round about the middle, and we can now crown the winner of this season's New Adventures. It is Ripon.
Ripon. Wow. Right.
And I think that is just desserts.
Yeah, I'd go with that, because actually since we filmed that, I think we've been back twice, haven't we? So.
But I think I do have to say that of all the seasons that we've done, apart from Scarborough, everywhere that we visited is somewhere that I would go regularly. And it's been absolutely wonderful. And this has been just the perfect end to the season.
Yeah.
Now, Kay, there is one final place which we need to go and visit before we end our episode and our season.
Okay.
And it's just down here. Now, ever since Aidan had arrived in 640 AD and set up his monastery, Hartlepool had become a target, whether it be pirates or marauding Scots armies, or as we discovered when we just visited the Trincomalee, came Napoleon. And when you've got a French warship off coast bombarding you with cannon fire, you need a little bit more than a town wall. And this was it.
This is the Lighthouse Gun Battery, and together with its sister sites at Hugh and round the bay at Fairy Cove, these were the guns installed to keep a potential invading Napoleon army away. Substantial parts of the battery remain, along with 2 gun placements. There's also an underground magazine, a battery command post and a barrack building. As the years progressed, the battery was constantly upgraded, and during World War I, the guns made history when they engaged 3 German ships in ship-to-shore combat, which ended up being the only such action seen by a British battery in the entirety of World War I. Whilst they stayed in use throughout World War II, by the advent of the Cold War, gun emplacements like this finally became obsolete, and so they were removed.
For the next 44 years, trees grew, vandalism did its worst, everything was just left to rack and ruin. And part of me feels sort of happy that the town and the British coastline no longer needed defences. But when you think about it, all of this around us here is just as much part of the history as the amazing Sandwell Gate, the Old Town Walls and the Trincomalee and St Hilda's Church. And I'm actually really thankful that the Hugh Battery Trust has been formed, and thanks to their amazing work, this vitally important part of the history of the town of Hartlepool will be here for people to come and enjoy for decades to come. Folks, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it's the end of the episode and the end of the series. But what adventures we've had! From the misty peaks of Rosebery Topping and the story of James Cook, to the wonders we found in Ripon and so much more. Because this has been a season where we travelled literally to the four corners of the world. And now, I'm sort of sad that it's over, but don't be downhearted, because you can join me on the 20th of March in 2020 for a brand new season of New Adventures. And I have a surprise for you, because for the first time ever, you can also join me on the 20th of December 2019 for a New Adventures Christmas special, where we'll be uncovering the story of Christmas at York Minster. But now, for the last time this series, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you on the 20th of December for a New Adventures Christmas special. Christmas special, baby!
Are you excited?
For the first time ever, New Adventures could not possibly desert you till March next year. We will be telling the story of Christmas at York Minster, and my family's part of that, which is just, it's an amazing thing to think that my family played an integral, granted for a very short amount of time, but it was...
It doesn't matter, does it?
It was two generations.
Everybody adds to the history.
They do. 2 generations of my family were involved integrally with Christmas at York Minster from 1952 until 1989.
Wow.
It's not a bad effort.
No.
So we'll be uncovering that on the 20th of December, and it's going to be just phenomenal, because we'll
lovely.
also...
Christmassy.
Yes, we'll also be... We touched on this in the episode where we went to Wensleydale. When we toured through Wensleydale, we touched on Sir Brian Fitz-Alan and the fact that he was the lord of the manor at the village where I grew up. So we'll be going there. We'll be exploring a medieval manor, and then we'll be then venturing off to the Minster, walking literally in the footsteps of my family for all those years, getting back in the Minster. And also, if you're very lucky, you might even get to hear me sing as a chorister.
If we can find it.
Well, I know of a backup.
Oh, do you?
I do. So
I really want to. I really want to hear him, don't you?
Do not miss.
So cute.
The 20th of December. But all that is just the precursor to season 4 of the New Adventures of the Bakery Bears. And this season, really, for me, it's felt so special because we've been able to make some big leaps technologically, and we're now filming the episodes which we've always aspired to be able to film. And so it seemed only right that next season's New Adventures should be the first of its kind, because we're going to be telling a story that's going to take us all 8 episodes. Each episode we're going to be going to a different location. We're going to be starting on the coast and working our way right across Yorkshire and telling one of the most phenomenal stories ever. We've hinted at it before. Along the way we'll be going back to some sites which have never had the New Adventures treatment, but we'll also be, of course, going to some brand new destinations.
Have you told me about this?
No, you don't know.
I'm just thinking, because I'm like with not remembering things, I'm thinking, has he told me about this? This sounds all new.
Well, it is all
exciting.
It's very exciting.
Wow.
And because of the situation that we're now in with regards to production on that series can start right now. It's already started on that series because the story is immense. The destinations we'll be going to are just tremendous. And as I say, for the first time ever, it will flow right the way through like a proper series should do. Folks, my goodness. So that's it. But there's no reason for us to be downhearted.
No.
There was no reason for me to be dreading this day for the last 2 months. How could I have been? Because I knew all along we were doing a Christmas special.
We had plans.
We most certainly did have plans. And you know how fortunate that we have an episode coming out on the 20th of December.
It just
literally
the timing of it, you know,
5 days.
with episodes worked really well this Christmas. Sometimes it doesn't fall
5
quite
days
right.
before the
but
big day.
Just a few days before Christmas.
Yes.
So I mean that's brilliant.
And Neil, my goodness, what have you got to look forward to? You've got New Adventures Christmas special leading into Pudding Club New Year's special.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
And then of course we've got the Advent calendar.
Already, the wheels are turning. Filming for this begins next week.
We're starting filming next week, but we've
We'll
been
be
planning
filming right the way through into the Christmas period.
Yeah.
It is a different Advent calendar, but the same.
Yes.
It is, change is great.
Yeah.
But also at Christmas,
tradition is also great.
It's also great.
So we've kept some traditions, but we've also introduced some new things.
And it's going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very excited.
Yes. Folks, it's the Endy Bits.
Oh, Endy Bits.
Yes.
Oh, I need my little basket.
Neil, the next Swish and Flick pattern is out next Friday.
It is. Yeah, there's actually today I've put up the pattern page for the 6th design. So if you want to see what yarn requirements are for that 6th design, and if you look closely at the details on Ravelry, you will also be able to work out what type of design it is. Because I don't keep that secret, I do put in the category of design. So if you just have a little look closely at the pattern page, which if you want to do that, if you just go onto the ebook, it's part of the ebook and it will just say Swish and Flick pattern 6 at this stage. Obviously the name's not there because I don't want to give it anything else away, but it will detail the yarn that I used, how much, and the yarn weight and the type of design that it is. So the actual pattern will launch following Friday, so a week today.
The Great Pyramid Cal is still ongoing, and my goodness, we need you people. We're literally on the home straight.
Yeah.
And, we're making great progress. We'll give you an update on where we're at because we've come to the end of another quarter now.
Yeah.
So we'll give you an update in the next episode on exactly where we're at. But remember, runners and walkers, we need to get all the way around back to the Great Pyramid of Khufu, ready for the party of all parties, because the Bakery Bear patron knitters will have knitted their way.
We will have, yes.
Right the way through the Great Pyramid of Khufu.
We will
finally have established who actually built it.
Will we?
It's us. Oh yes. So
it's
please,
a bunch of knitters that built it.
Of course, come and listen to the Bakery Bears radio show, a new episode of which is out next Friday.
It's all very mysterious.
In the next episode of the Bakery Bears radio show, we're going to be talking about the thing which has had the most profound effect on both Kay and me, and that is getting outside and exercising. For me it's running, for Kay it's walking, but it's just been, and what's been wonderful for me has been the fact that you've followed a very similar path to what I followed in the effect it's had on you mentally, but this year.
Yeah.
So it's like I've got to enjoy that whole process all over again.
Yeah.
So we're going to be
talking all about that. So lots of sort of, the mental side of it, and obviously the physical side and the connections between the two. And
but also along the way,
I've got a tree book.
Along the way, we'll be taking. We have a favourite route that we follow when we do the Baker Bears radio show, and we want to get to the bottom of what some of those trees are.
Yes.
So along the way, we're going to be. People really do enjoy when we describe what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So we're going to hopefully be able to identify some of the trees.
Yeah. I've got a couple of things. The first one is we were sent a prize donation. This came from Michelle. Michelle has an Etsy shop which is Oh So Pretty X. Imagine, I think it's like a kiss after it.
Yes.
Oh So Pretty and a kiss all together. It's Michelle Lawson, and she contacted me and said, can I send a prize? So I was like, absolutely, you can send a prize. That's very, very kind. And she sent this lovely festive festive sloth bag.
Oh.
I know, it's super cute fabric. It's a little drawstring bag and a matching DPN cozy. Look!
It's gorgeous.
Look at those sloths. Now, I did originally think I would use this for the autumnal knit along, but actually that's not going to finish until... I don't think I'm drawing the prizes for that until sort of December. And maybe I'd want somebody to have this before December because it's Christmassy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe I'll use this as a prize. I'll add it into the prizes for the next Swish and Flick prizes that I do, which will only be the next episode, won't it?
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do, actually, because I would like someone to have this bag before December so that you can then pop something in it and it'll feel Christmassy, can't you? Look, he's decorated his branch. There's baubles. He's put baubles on his branch. How cute is that? So I will do that. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's beautiful. It's so pretty. Perfect size for a pair of socks or a hat. And you've got that DPN case as well. So I'm going to draw for that on the next episode. I'll add it into the Swish and Flick. I get asked this question fairly regularly, and it's to do with the moon dust cowl that's part of the Swish and Flick. If you remember, I've bought the yarn to knit another one. I bought this one. It's the Eden Cottage Pendle Chunky, 2 skeins, and I've got this to knit the next one. So I needed a button. Now it's the button that I get asked about a lot, in that where can I find, or where can you find a 2-inch button, because it requires just one large button. I purchased another one recently and I thought, right, I'll let everybody know where I got it from. And I purchased it from a UK company, and it's buttoncompany.co.uk. And I got one that is a Goya shell, which I wasn't even sure what that was, but it's actually just I say just, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's mother of pearl. Look at that. And you can see when you look on the other side, that's the shell on the other side. And it's gorgeously uneven because it's a natural thing.
This is bringing back memories.
It's so beautiful. And look what it's going to look like against that. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
I've got no idea why, but this is bringing back memories of childhood for me.
Right.
So I need to speak to my mum and find out
right.
what this has got to do with me.
Right. So it's a Goya shell. So all I did was I just Googled 2-inch button for sewing, because if you just Google 2-inch button, you'll get loads of badges, because in the States you would call a badge a button. We don't call a badge a button, we call it a badge. But if you don't put for sewing after it, then you'll just get loads of sites wanting to sell you
I'm sure I've asked this question before, but I don't recall that anyone's answered me. But I'd love to know
why is it called a button?
Well, no. What if you call that a button? What do you call buttons?
No, they call... In America, you call a badge a button.
But what do they call buttons?
I think you call them buttons as well. So it's confusing that you use the same word for 2 different things.
All right.
If you're over there in the States, why do you call what we would call a badge, a badge with a pin on the back, why would you call that a button?
If you were looking for buttons, how do you distinguish between
that's why I've
a button and a badge?
Well, that's why I've just said I had to put in...
It's all too much.
I know. And maybe this is why it's more troublesome to find websites that sell
But surely
buttons.
you use buttons.
Of course they use buttons. But
how do you find button shops
I've
then?
heard people talk about buttons and they just call them buttons. But you would also call a badge a button. I suppose it's in context of the sentence, isn't it?
Right.
So you would know what you were talking about from the rest of the sentence.
Right.
If you were going to say, I need to go and buy some buttons to sew onto my cardigan, you would know it's this sort of button, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It just seems like an easy problem that knitters would have and sewers would have in America a lot.
Yeah,
if they were looking, I need some
especially
buttons.
online.
So you type buttons and all you get is badges.
The only reason I realised is that I just put in initially 2-inch buttons and I kept getting, it was all badges. And I was like, what?
Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't you start calling them badges?
Start calling them badges. I'd be interested to know why you call a badge a button and a button a button.
The problem will be solved. It would be. Genius. You never thought we would be able to solve one of those key problems that the world has had.
Absolutely.
We've done it.
So if you're searching online, I would suggest that you search 2-inch button for sewing. And then it should bring up button websites rather than badge websites. But that's the company I use, buttoncompany.co.uk. It's a 2-inch or 50mm is the kind of metric. Is that a word? Metric? Is that the right word?
Sounds right.
Yeah. But brilliant. I got it very quick. It cost me altogether. I mean, it's only one button, so I suppose you're going to think this is expensive. But the button itself, I think, was just over £2. But then shipping was like £2.75. So it cost me about £5 for it, which is expensive when you think about it. It's just one button, but it's a big button, isn't it? And it's an unusual button, so I think that's why it's a bit more expensive.
And the thing is,
but it's just beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. I just think it's going to look like the gleaming moon. Oh, I can't wait to start that.
It's only expensive because you just bought one.
Yeah.
Because if you bought 5, it'd only cost you £13.
That's true, and you might get discounts for buying more as well.
Well, also you might. So it's only because you bought one that it cost a lot.
Yeah. But I just thought that's a good bit of information because I do get asked that fairly regularly.
Have you finished?
So, yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next Friday for the Bakery Bears radio show. And we'll see you the Friday after that for episode 136 and the return of an old favourite. Yes, it's time for Kay to get her revenge. All will be revealed in episode 136. We'll see you then.
See you soon.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which they're favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. Find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your oven, or maybe a shawl you'll want to wear. So sit yourself right down and